The UN says gangs are invading Haiti's rural central region that was once a peaceful area that served as the country's food basket, but is now plagued by kidnappings, killing, and rape. A report released Tuesday by the UN Human Rights Office of the High Commission found that a handful of powerful gangs have been able to lay waste to numerous communities given their remote locations, sparse police presence, and a lack of basic government institutions. Canada's ambassador to Haiti said earlier this month that he hopes the world moves faster to help the country emerge from a prolonged period of lawlessness. And joining us now to discuss the humanitarian crisis in Haiti is Francois Giroux, Canada's ambassador to Haiti. Ambassador, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
We know that the UN has just issued a report about expanded gang violence in the rural region of Haiti. But can you explain to us just how prominent these gangs are across the country?
Well, I guess you could see the UN report as just the latest manifestation of the tremendous security crisis that is happening in Haiti right now. It is very concerning. The gangs are already more or less controlling a big part, the majority of the city of Port-au-Prince, the greater Port-au-Prince area, and of course they're getting stronger and they're moving towards the regional areas. It is, I mean, they are already controlling most of all of the main roads, so it's literally impossible to travel by car across Haiti without encountering barrage and controls by gangs. It can be quite dangerous. As
Mhm.
a reality, most of the population is captive in their area. That said, the reality of the real gang impact is still very much, as I was saying, in Port-au-Prince.
And you were appointed as ambassador to the country in September, just before the UN approved a military intervention to combat this problem. What is the status of that intervention? What exactly is being done? And what is Canada's role?
So, as you I'm sure you are following the news, the Kenyans have volunteered to take the leadership of the force. They are going through their own domestic judicial process to finalize the authorization so that the force can be deployed. In the meantime, training plans are taking place so that the force. There's a lot of behind-the-scene efforts to recruit participants to the force. So all of that work, despite the delays, is definitely going ahead and taking place. Um, Canada, as you may also know, we've been supporting the PNH, the police, the Asian National Police, for 30 years. We've been here always, but just last March, Prime Minister Trudeau announced an extra $100 million specifically dedicated to the PNH to help it in this very crisis. So that work has already started to take place and will carry on in parallel with once the force comes to Haiti. The force is coming here to support, to complement the PNH. So our effort that we've started 30 years ago and that we've sort of ramped up will continue, carry on while the force is here, and will carry on for the long run as well. In addition to all of this, we've noticed that there's a real need for coordination. So Canada is leading a multi-donor coordination efforts that involve countries that are contributing and international organization, because what we want to make sure is that the needs of the PNH are well understood, and that as a donor community, we address them and we don't overlap, we don't duplicate, and we don't forget gaps. So the whole idea of that coordination efforts was something that was identified as being critical. So it's one example where Canada is, and all of those efforts are really will be supporting the force when it's come here and complement all of its effort.
We have about 30 seconds before we go to the break. We will come back right after that. But is that focus on police part of the reason why the decision was made to use the RCMP and not our armed forces in this mission?
Well, the RC, we've announced a training by the RCMP. It is police to police training. The RCMP has had this long-standing relationship with the PNH. They've been here, as I said, when Canada was supporting them, the RCMP was always around the corner. So it is the logical choice in the circumstances. Absolutely.
We will be right back after this commercial with Canada's ambassador to Haiti, so stay with us. And we are back with Canada's ambassador to Haiti, Francois Giroux. Ambassador, you have said that nothing is moving fast enough to combat the gang violence issue in the country. What steps would you like to see taken to help fast track a viable solution here?
Yeah, when I made those comments, it was very much in the context of the fact that there's a humanitarian crisis, there's a security crisis. So when you see everyday people suffering from the lack of food, the insecurity, people dying, victims of gangs, nothing will ever move fast enough. I guess that was the point of my statement. But I can assure you that Canada is moving and quite fast to support Haiti. We really ramp up our efforts, as I was saying previously, extra money, extra efforts. It's not just the investments that we're tangible investment that we're making in equipment. It's also the people who are working and supporting me here in Port-au-Prince, so that we have value for our money, we have impact. Of course, we're also shown leadership in sanctioning the people who we believe are contributing to this insecurity by their action. And those sanctions are important to when it comes to impunity and to making sure that some of those behaviors change. We other countries are following suit. We're very pleased to see that the EU has put a framework to give it the ability to have sanctions. The UN is moving forward with its own sanctions, and behind the scene, internationally, we are working with others, allies, countries to help them follow
And
suit.
on
So
that, I was just going to say,
yes.
on that note of sanctions, you've mentioned the push for sanctions specifically against Haitian elites, as I think how it was described. Who exactly are these individuals that we've sanctioned so far? And when we
Well,
talk about sanctions in the international community, what actions are being taken, or at least what's being considered to sanction those individuals in question?
so every country has its own sanctions regime. So we are obviously operating under our own. We have 28 individuals so far. They're a mix of political elite or economic elite. It's when we have reasonable reason to believe that they are, contributing to financing some of the gangs or
Hmm.
directing some of the gangs, we take action. Um, the UN has its own system, and the beauty of the UN system, obviously, is once the UN sanctions someone, all of the member states have to implement those sanctions. Our sanctions, they're wonderful. They're great. They're an example to be set, but they have impact in Canada and in regard to Canadian interests. The UN will make it universal, and that obviously takes a little bit more time. UN Security Council has agreed to a framework. Experts at the UN have done some investigation. There's a report that was submitted to the UN Security Council, so now members have to decide who they're going to list or not. That process is taking place, and then we expect to start to see the tangible result very shortly.
I want to shift gears here. We have about a minute and a half left to the importance of democratic institutions, because we know since the assassination of Haiti's prime minister, the country has been ruled by Prime Minister Ariel Henry, but Haiti hasn't had an election. Is there any progress being made so that the Haitian people can have a free and fair election? And if there has been progress, do you have any insight on a timeline for when that might happen?
Well, this another area where I think we can pride ourselves. Canada has, doing our part to try to move parties opposition parties and the government closer together. So at the recent last month Canada CARICOM summit, Prime Minister Trudeau, Minister Joly had strong messages to PM Henry on the necessity to reach out to the opposition and consider sharing power. Uh, we believe that some progress has been made. There are still lots of details to be sorted out, but the CARICOM Imminent Person Group, which was reinforced its in
Mhm.
mandate at the CARICOM summit, they've been here since. They've been working closely with the key actor, and they're doing their utmost to try to bring those parties together, which in our view is critical. It has been long enough. We need that agreement so that we can then Asian can start the electoral process.
Ambassador Giroux, we really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today on this. Thank you very much for joining us on Forum Daily.